everyone, this is Jeremy from Good Beer Matters. What a crazy time this is. We've never experienced anything like this, and honestly, this is precedented, just in a different way. I mean, people have gone through the depression, recessions, wars. This is just our time to learn what's important and reevaluate, refocus, replan, reinvent. There's so many. Without being Mr. Positive speaker, there is a lot of opportunity to reevaluate and reinvent. Some may argue that tasting beer is really not important right now, and I'm not going to argue against that, other than to say drinking beer for the sake of drinking beer, or tasting anything for that matter, is not the point. The point is being mindful, having a practice of mindfulness. The mindset of mindfulness is really what I'm after and what I really want to talk about. I've just used beer as a tool to facilitate a better mindfulness, a better understanding of what's going on around us. And especially in a time like this, the point isn't the beer, the food, whatever it is. The point is just paying attention to the nuances, to the things that bring us joy, the things that really matter. So in that end, I'm going to continue to use beer as a tool to bring about something better. In this time, trying to pay attention to those things like flavor, to find joy in just the simple, mundane things like a beer, like an ordinary lager, for example. This is where I really want to make this time a little bit more endurable. To that end, I happen to be away from home. We're somewhere warm. We had a planned vacation, but we figured this was a perfect place to sequester ourselves from life going on. And there's a ton of changes, but I managed to get my hands on this wonderful beer from a brewery in Redlands, but also has a location in Lake Havasu City. But the brewery is Hangar 24. There's a beer that I tasted for the first time last year that I fell in love with. And so I sought it out when I returned here. And it is the Aventura from Hangar 24. The thing about this that I especially love is it really is a Mexican style lager. And being born and raised in San Diego, I've got a special place in my heart of hearts for Mexican lagers. Just because they remind me of growing up. Of course, I didn't drink when I was a kid, but you know what I mean. It was just a style of beer that is reminiscent of a place, of a time, of a lifestyle, of an attitude. And so I love lagers. I love Mexican lagers in particular. But this one is a little bit unique because it is made with a little bit of a sea salt from the Sea of Cortez near Baja. And it's also done with whole, fresh limes. But it's not a fruited beer. It's not salty. It's not even a gosa. This is a Mexican lager with just a hint of sea salt and just a hint of lime. And the beauty about this is they utilize a tip that chefs around the world, professional chefs, know that if you give food just a little sprinkling of salt or a little sprinkling of acid, like from a lime, you make the flavors pop. When you add just a tiny bit of salt to anything, coffee, beer, whatever it is, if it's just enough, it kind of turns the flavors from mono into stereo, using a sound analogy. And on that curve of salt, it goes from just kind of being a flavor accelerator to then becoming sweet before then it finally comes around to becoming salty. And they're really taking advantage of that aspect of just turning that, before it gets sweet, it just turns that flavor on a little bit more. And same thing with a little spritz of lime. You get that wonderful flavor of lime, but just a hint. It's almost subconscious. It's very light, but it does something to our brains. It does something to the flavor, and it changes our mindset. And if you think I'm preaching something crazy, I get it. It sounds kind of weird, but as soon as you hear the first two notes of that song that takes you back to junior high, that song that takes you back to your wedding, two notes is all it takes to take you back. Same thing with these flavors, especially for me coming from San Diego originally, but you get just a touch of salt and a touch of lime and oh my gosh, then everything just changes. But the base beer is good in and of itself. I'm using this beer as a means to take this time of uncertainty and add a little bit more joy, add a little bit more interest, make it interesting, do something different, add just a little bit of salt, a little bit of lime. And even with a beer, pay attention to the flavors, because the more you pay attention to your flavors, the more you pay attention to colors, sound, the world around you, the more things just kind of open up. And right now, I think that's what we need. Anyway, enjoy your beer, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.